So we're all pretty well acquainted, although we just have forgotten it, that's all. But these are facts. These are things the Master said, and he never lied to me, and you can read it in the Preceptor Teachings. So there we have the testimony of the great Krishna, one of the greatest saints, Jadava the Krishna. King Jadava, who had Christ consciousness. Jesus, who had Christ consciousness. Jesus the Christ. And each and every one of us can be a Christ. We can have Christ consciousness. Now going on to the testimony of another saint, the great Babaji, Supreme Master Babaji of this channel of God, who is still living and has passed beyond the lifespan of an ordinary mortal. He, when he initiated Larry Marsh into Kriya Yoga, brought back to his memory his previous life where he meditated with him. The great Babaji showed him his blanket and his begging bowl and even gave him a great banquet as symbolic of his previous existence with him. So there you have the testimony of another saint, that the previous lives can be remembered when you have the consciousness of the dreamer. Now let us come down to our time, perhaps a little nearer home, a testimony of the actions of our own master, Paramahansa Yogananda Ji. When he went to India in 1935, he went by the way of England, and my son was with him, and he told me these things, and in fact the master told me. He was in the Tower of London, and they were looking around, sightseeing, and he saw up on one part of it a little corner that he didn't seem satisfied with, and he says, "Isn't there a lavatory there, or whatever they called them in those previous times?" And the guide said, "No, there's nothing there," and the master insisted. Well, they got the curator of the Tower of London, and they came and pulled away certain things, and there was the toilet, which the master had evidently remembered being around there. And he told us several of his incarnations. One was William the Conqueror, it is generally known, so I'm not telling something I shouldn't. And also, they were out in some place, Stonehenge, I think it was, and the master said to my son, he was just at the right age to take it in the right way, and he said, "I was here." He wrote us, he said, "Master said that he was here about 4,500 years ago." In that age. So these things are very interesting. Another point that comes to my mind is that the master, as Vyasa wrote the Bhagavad Gita many, many years ago, took the character of Arjuna. This he has told to some disciples. And I remember he was talking to me and he kept emphasizing Vyasa, Vyasa. And one passage it says there that, "Arjuna, thou art the only one to behold, to be given the privilege of beholding the awful form of God. And thou hast not seen it with these two human eyes, but with the single eye of the soul." And he used to keep saying to me, if you saw the awful form of God, you'd be frightened. And I wondered why he kept telling me. And later, I find out that it was he who was Arjuna. So there you have the testimony of some saints as to the question, solving the question, do we reincarnate? Now the Bible testimony I have given you. I won't go through it again because the time is getting short, but there you have definite points referring to the fact that we do reincarnate. And there are many other points that can be brought up in the Bible, but I've given you enough to keep you busy thinking about it, meditating upon it. Now, the most convincing argument in favor of reincarnation is this. It is in the inequalities and paradoxes of life, the inequalities of human existence, the injustices. Look about you. You take the human race, for instance. You take the infants. Some live a long time, a normal life. Some just a day or so and they're gone. Some have healthy bodies, and some are sick from the day they're born. Some people, babies and adults too, also have inherited tendencies, subject to different sorts of diseases and troubles and so forth. Some with mental troubles, some with circulatory troubles, digestive troubles, Others do not have those things. How do you explain these inequalities? And then going on, when a person, these infants, some are born in spiritual homes, and some are born in places not so spiritual. Now going on to the case of adults, the social standing of people, how different it is. Some who shouldn't be there are on the top of society, if you want to be there. And others, wonderful characters, do not seem to have any position in life. Then you take the financial status of people. Some very intelligent people cannot make a nickel, cannot hardly have enough to get along with, and others, not so intelligent perhaps, everything they touch turns to gold. Why? This clearly points out the law of causation. It brings in, without question of a doubt, the law of karma, that a previous cause has been set up and that cause must be fulfilled. The result must be forthcoming. You cannot explain it except, perhaps, that action was done before which produced these definite results. And so it does point out through these injustices in life, paradoxes, inequalities, that there was a previous cause that brought it about. Take in the field, for instance, of prodigies, artists, scientists, musicians, mathematicians.